Here are some things that all good readers remember. Predict what the book will be about. Ask yourself questions as you read. Try and work out difficult words. Listen to yourself as you read. Reread when you need to. Can you predict what this book is about? Click on a book feature to find out. Title. The title tells you something about the story. Can you predict what the story is about by reading the title? Illustration. The illustration on the cover of the book shows you something that is happening in the story. The picture on the front of the book shows you something you will find inside the book. What does this picture show you? What is this illustration about? Blurb. The blurb is on the back cover. It gives you a quick summary of the story. Can you predict what the story is about by reading the blurb? Table of contents. The table of contents is a list of the chapters in the story.
Stranded. Written by John Carr. Illustrated by Michael Wilkin. Click on the speaker on each page to hear the story read. If you need help, click on the Help button.
If you are having trouble working out a word, try these strategies. Skip the word and read on to the end of the sentence. Can you guess what the word is now? Does it make sense and sound right? Look at the start of the word. What sound do you hear when you say the first letter? Can you sound out the first 2 or 3 letters? Look at the whole word. Are there any parts you can sound out? Break the word into syllables. Reread the whole sentence. Can you think of a word now that makes sense and sounds right?
Stranded. Written by John Carr. Illustrated by Michael Wilkin. Contents. The Challenge, page 1. Gannett Point, page 8. Caxton's Crevice, page 12. Getting Organised, page 14. Saving the Whale, page 19. The Way In, page 27. Map, page 31. Kids Save Killer Whale, page 32. Harry's Rap, page 34. Glossary, page 36. Characters. Carlo, Benji, Maddie, Kylie, Stace, Harry, Pumpkin, Doris. Chapter 1. The Challenge. It's a 13-metre wave runner, said Benji. Sounds like it's running dual turbocharged engines. To me, it was just a big fishing boat pulling into the wharf. I looked up from my book and nodded. Perfect for chasing tuna, added Benji. Yes, Carlo said. Nice name, too. Cost a lot of $1. Must be Spanish, I said. Suddenly, there was a shout from the other side of the wharf. I've got one, yelled Kylie. It's a big one. Help! She sounded serious. In her excitement, she tripped over Doris, the dog. She stumbled towards the edge of the wharf. Stace leapt over Doris and grabbed Kylie's arm. Benji and Carlo pulled Kylie away from the edge, and I grabbed the rod. Before I knew it, I was fishing. I wound the reel in quickly. The fish wasn't that big. In fact, it was so small I could hardly see it. Slippery, slimy fish freaked me out a bit. Click! Nice photo, Maddie, said a voice from behind the camera. It was Pumpkin Patterson. Look what the Team Turbo treasurer has caught, he said to Curly Top. If you zoom in, you can see it hiding behind her little finger. That's a little rod you've got there, Maddie, he said. Looks like you got it from the $2 shop. It's mine, said Kylie. Well, don't you worry, Tiny Turbo, laughed Pumpkin. He patted Kylie on the head. Curly and I are going fishing today, and if Maddie is lucky, we might catch one for her. Benji, Stace, and Carlo ignored Pumpkin, but I couldn't let him get away with this. You catch a fish for me, I said. I don't need your fish. I can catch a fish that's bigger than anything you can catch. Can't I, Team Turbo? Stace, Harry, Benji, Carlo, and Kylie just nodded. That sounds like a challenge, said Pumpkin. Why don't we meet back here at the end of the day for the weigh-in? Great, I said. What time? Hey, Uncle Bob, Pumpkin shouted. What time will we be back? I looked across at the man on the deck of the Costa Lotta Dollar. He smiled and waved. Uh-oh. 6 o'clock, he said. Chapter 2. Gannet Point. Gannet Point was a long walk from the wharf. Benji said the fishing was good at low tide, so we headed in that direction. Benji was usually in charge on fishing expeditions. Today, I was. This looks like a good spot, I said. It is, said Harry. Harry knew less about fishing than I did. However, he did know about wireless internet access, and he was checking the fishing report from the Salt Spray Coast Guard. Benji, I said, you set up the rods. Stace and Carlo, prepare the bait. Kylie, empty the buckets and find a dry place to put the food and the towels. Doris, you sit down and be a good dog. Everyone did exactly as I told them, except for Doris. Before Carlo could get to the bait bag, Doris had grabbed it and run off. Without bait, there would be no fish, and without fish, there would be no end to Pumpkin's boasting. Quick! Stop her! I yelled, as Doris jumped over a rock pool and scrambled around a rocky ledge. Benji led the chase. We leapt across a gap between huge rocks, but it was too late. By the time we got to the ledge where Gannet Point dropped into the sea, Doris was gone. Doris! Come back! Shouted Benji. But the only thing that came back was a faint echo of his voice as it bounced off Caxton's crevice. Chapter 3. Caxton's Crevice. Caxton's Crevice was a hole in the rock that ran through to Mawara Beach, on the other side of Gannet Point. The crevice was too small for even Kylie to squeeze through, but perfect for a Labrador. Benji led us up over the grassy headland. From the top, we could see Doris standing in shallow waves beside a big, black rock. She had dropped the bait bag and was staring at the rock. That rock! Kylie screamed. It's alive! Kylie was right. The huge black mass on the beach was alive. It wasn't a rock. It was a whale. It was lying on its belly in the shallow water with its head pointing away from the sea. We knew it was alive because the large fin on its back suddenly moved. Chapter 4. Getting Organised. It's an orca! A killer whale, said Stace. We raced down the hill. Stace splashed up to the whale and rubbed her hand on its head. You poor thing. You must have been stuck here since high tide. The orca rolled slightly onto its side and slapped the water with one of its pectoral fins. Team Turbo leapt into action. Harry, contact the Coast Guard and tell them there's a stranded whale on Mawara Beach, I said. Then find out what we can do to keep it alive. Right, said Harry. His fingers were already dancing on the keyboard. I saw a whale stranding on TV, said Benji. We have to keep the whale wet and try to keep the sun off its skin. Before I could give any more orders, Benji and Carlo were running back to Gannet Point to get the buckets and towels. By the time they got back to the beach, Harry had emailed the Coast Guard with the details. Harry also emailed the information to the other 257 people on his email list, to be sure that someone answered. Neither Stace nor Doris had moved from the whale's side. It seemed much calmer when they were there. Stace talked to it, while Doris stared into its eyes. Whenever the whale moved, Doris made the crying sounds that she made when someone was eating sandwiches without offering her one. Kylie wet the towels while Benji placed them on the whale's back. Carlo and I filled the buckets with seawater and tipped them over the towels. Stace thought that the whale was getting weaker. "Harry," she shouted, "has anyone replied to the email yet?" "Yes," shouted Harry excitedly. "I'm chatting to him now." "At last," I said. "Who is it?" "Thomas," said Harry triumphantly. "My online chess partner in Sweden." "Sweden?" I shouted. Chapter 5. Saving the Whale. Luckily for Harry, Thomas was able to get his father to call the Salt Spray Coast Guard to give them Harry's message. "They'll be here in their IRB shortly," said Harry. "That's an inflatable rubber boat, Kylie," he said, before she asked. "They're bringing a sling and a whale expert from Ocean World," said Harry. "They need to know how big the whale is." "I've got an idea," I said. "Everybody stand beside the whale, and Harry can take a photo with his webcam. That will give Ocean World an idea of its size." I used the $2 fishing rod to get us all in a line beside the whale. Harry snapped the photo and emailed it to Ocean World. Soon the Coast Guard arrived. There were 3 officers and Mr. Jamison, the vet, on board. "You kids have done a great job," said Mr. Jamison. "We'll have to keep the whale comfortable till the sling arrives, and then see if we can tow her out as the tide comes in." Benji, Harry, Carlo and I were replacing the towels on the whale's back with Coast Guard blankets when the Ocean World helicopter landed on the beach. The pilot and a whale expert, Jan, unhooked the parts of the sling. Jan unrolled 2 long, flat tubes and began inflating them. "What are those?" asked Kylie. "Pontoons," said Jan. "We put one on either side of the whale to keep her afloat. Then we tow her out to sea." "What is that?" said Kylie, pointing to a sheet of canvas on the beach. "That goes underneath the whale, and then we attach the pontoons," said Jan. The whale was lying slightly to one side as the canvas was pulled up to her. The tide was coming in, but not quickly enough for Jan. "We need to roll her slightly to the other side," she said. "Then we can pull the canvas under her." Everyone got on one side of the whale and pushed whenever a wave came in, but the whale didn't move. Then I had an idea. "She seems to like looking at Doris," I said. "If we move Doris out of her sight, maybe she will try and roll over to see her." "Let's give it a try as the next wave comes through," said Mr. Jamison. Stace picked Doris up and carried her to the rear of the whale as the next wave came in. As the wave hit, everyone pushed hard, and the whale moved slightly onto the canvas. "Well done, Doris," shouted Jan. 6 pairs of hands grabbed the edge of the canvas and pulled hard as the next wave came through. Enough of the sheet was pulled through so that a pontoon could be attached on either side of the whale. Doris crouched on the pontoon, close to the whale's head. Both animals seemed happy with that. Jan attached an electronic tag to the whale's fin. "This tag will help us to learn more about orcas," she said. When the tow rope from the IRB was attached to the sling, we helped push the whale off the sand. Stace and Doris stayed on the IRB to keep the whale calm until it was released. We waited on the beach as the whale was towed slowly into deep water. When the IRB got back, the shadows on the beach were long. The smile on Stace's face told us that the whale had been safely released. Chapter 6. The Weigh-In. "Thanks for your help, kids. We couldn't have saved that whale without you," said Mr. Jamison as we climbed onto the wharf. We had forgotten about Pumpkin Patterson until we saw his Uncle Bob reading a newspaper on the deck of the Costa Lotta Dollar. As usual, we heard Pumpkin before we saw him. His voice was coming from behind a very large fish, which was hanging from the fishing club's scales. "Well, I didn't think you were going to show up, Team Turbo," he said. He slapped the hanging fish proudly with the back of his hand. "Bluefin tuna," he said. 31 kilos. "Nice," I said. "So where is your fish, Team Turbo Treasurer?" he said. "We haven't got one," I said. "I guess that means I win the challenge," Pumpkin smiled. His smile grew wider until his Uncle Bruce handed him the newspaper. "Have a look at that," he said. Pumpkin looked at the photograph on the front page of the Salt Spray Splash. It was the one Harry had taken earlier in the day. The killer whale stretched across the page with everyone in Team Turbo, except Harry, standing in front of it. I had a serious look on my face, and the $2 fishing rod in my hand. How much did it weigh?" he stammered. I laughed. "Oh, we didn't weigh it," I said. "No?" said Pumpkin. "Oh, no," I said. "Team Turbo doesn't weigh them when they're that small. We just tag them and put them back." Map. Salt Spray Splash. Salt Spray Kids Save Killer Whale by our news reporter. 6 Salt Spray children and a pet Labrador played a vital role in saving an orca, also known as a killer whale, that was stranded on a local beach today. The children, aged between 6 and 12 years old, discovered the stranded orca on Mawara Beach around noon. They alerted the Coast Guard, comforted the orca, and helped experts from Ocean World to refloat it at high tide. Salt Spray vet Tony Jamison was full of praise for the children. "They did everything right. That orca would not have been saved without them," he said. A whale rescue sling and pontoons, helicoptered in from Ocean World, and a Coast Guard inflatable rescue boat were used to refloat the orca and to tow it out to deep water. "Thanks to the kids, it was a perfect rescue," said Jan Carlotti, the Ocean World whale expert. "They contacted us early, and they kept the orca cool, wet and calm until we got there." Spokesperson Maddie Chan was modest about the children's role in the rescue. "The Coast Guard, the Ocean World rescue team and Doris the dog all had important roles in the rescue," she told our reporter today.
Harry's Rap by Harry Singh.
Got a whale, got a whale, got a whale on the sand. Got a whale in trouble, got to lend a helping hand. Got a whale in trouble? What do you get? Got to get a bucket, got to keep a whale wet. Got a whale in trouble? What do you get? Got to get a rescue team, got to use the net. Got to find a hero with the laptop thing. Sounds like a job for Super Harry Singh. Write an H in my browser, then a TTP, then a little line of W's, 1, 2, 3. Get in my chat room, have a little chat. Get a friend to ring the Coast Guard, simple as that. Got a whale in trouble? That's what to get. A Harry in a hurry and a bucket and a net, yo.
Glossary. Crevice. A narrow opening in a rock. Orca. Also called a killer whale. These large mammals are not known to harm humans. They like eating stingrays. Triumphantly. Celebrating doing something successfully. Turbocharged engine. An engine that has been made more powerful. Webcam. A web camera which takes images that can be seen on the internet. Let's do the Whizzy quiz for stranded. Answer 10 questions correctly. See how long it takes. Type your name and click on Start. Move the pictures into the order that they happened in the story. Good work. Drag the 5 words that start with the sl letter blend onto the picture. Yes. Slimy, slippery, slightly, slapped and sling. Start with the sl letter blend. Excellent. Drag the 4 words with the letters PH sounding like F onto the picture. Yes. Photograph, photo, triumphantly and telephone all have the letters PH sounding like F. Brilliant. Move the pictures to match the words. Computer. Orca. Crevice. Pontoon. Great job. Drag 4 words that start with a prefix onto the picture. Yes. Unrolled and unhooked start with the prefix un. Afloat and alive start with the prefix a. Great. Drag 4 words with 4 syllables onto the picture. Yes. Expedition, helicopter, information and excitedly are words with 4 syllables. Great. What is IRB short for in the story? Yes. In the story, IRB is short for inflatable rubber boat. Fantastic. Drag 4 words with the short E vowel sound, as in the word get, onto the picture. Yes. Help, edge, checking and end have the short E vowel sound, as in the word get. Good work. What does inflatable mean? Yes, inflatable means can be filled up with air. Fantastic. Revise the 7 mistakes in this sentence. Click Go when you have finished. Fantastic. Let's make a spelling game. Type your name and click on Next. Look at these sentences from Stranded. See all the blue words? Choose 5 of the blue words for your spelling words. Wharf. Nodded. Suddenly. Serious. Ignored. Click on Make Game to play the spelling bubble game. Roll over the word bubble to hear the word. Rabbit. Roll over the sentence bubble to hear the word in a sentence. The rabbit hopped across the paddock. Type the word. If you want to make a correction, press the Delete or Backspace button on the keyboard. Click Go, and your letter bubbles will float into the big bubble. Click on Play. Now, spell the 5 words to win. Type the first word and click Go. Wharf. To me, it was just a big fishing boat pulling into the wharf. Type the next word and click on Go. Nodded. I looked up from my book and nodded. Type the next word and click on Go. Suddenly. Suddenly, there was a shout from the other side of the wharf. Type the next word and click on Go. Serious. She sounded serious. Type the last word and click on Go. Ignored. Benji, Stace and Carlo ignored Pumpkin, but I couldn't let him get away with this. Brilliant. You've spelled 5 words correctly. Now play again and choose another 5 words, or get a certificate. Silly story writer. Write a silly story for Stranded. Follow the instructions to write your silly story. Then click Next. Great job! Lost at Ocean World. A silly story from Stranded. Now you can read your silly story. Click on Edit if you need to make any changes. Click on Print if you're happy with the story.